Hi, I'm Helen, and I would love to welcome you to a new episode of 5 Curly Career Questions. And today I am excited to be joined by Natalie Ferguson. Hi, Nat, it's really good to see you.
Hi, it's nice to see you too.
Good. So, you are the co founder of Powrsuit, which is a career accelerator for women at every stage, and it helps women succeed on their terms. Love that there in there. And you do that through things like bite sized learning, micro networking, and you have a global membership across countries. I think I read there were obviously New Zealand, Australia, Colombia, America, Europe, UK, Singapore, and Canada. I got all
hmm
those. Awesome.
Small
I
but
love it.
growing in several of them.
Love it. Love it. Well, welcome. Are you ready for your 5 curly career questions?
Hope so. Let's crack in and see.
Let's do it. Okay. First question. Tell me about a time when you experienced a career transition, or maybe a time when you felt a bit stuck.
Yeah, there was one actually just pre-Powrsuit. We had built an entirely different business, an investing platform here in New Zealand, and had grown it. We had about 180,000 investors on our platform. We were growing. We had a team of 65. It was my baby. And then we were acquired, and we were facing forward, and I was facing forward at the prospect of probably 3 to 5 years of integrating one tech platform into another tech platform and not being able to really focus on what I care about. But to leave was walking away from pretty nice golden handcuffs as well as quite an identity. So that took, fortunately, only about 6 months to get our team set up in their new home, and a lot of soul searching and some pretty tough questions around how much I tie my identity to my job title and my company, and then also how much I prioritize happiness and peace in my life. So I decided to leave. And I've got to say, for the next 6 to 12 months afterwards, people who I knew would see me again for the first time and go, wow, something's changed. You're back to who you were. And I think that was probably a sign it was the right choice.
Definitely, definitely. I love that piece around identity. I find that more and more now when people leave something where they've either developed it or been there for a while, it's like they kind of almost, you question your identity for a little while. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is around priorities. So, as we start out on our careers, as we build our lives, our priorities change. So, what one way have your priorities changed?
I think my definition of success has changed. I actually encourage a lot of people to do the same now, that we often start out in our careers as like 19, 22-year-olds with an idea of what success looks like. And it often does look like a job title. There's a financial element. There's potentially a status element or an impact element. And I don't think I question that along the way. And so I actually really intentionally at a couple of points have stopped and said, what does success look like to me now? And found that it looks quite different. For me now, it means balance. It means investing far more in friendships. It means travel, and it means time. And that's quite different from what I would have picked about 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, I think that's been a really interesting lesson, which is to stop and have a check in with yourself every now and again, because it does change dramatically over the years.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so what are a couple of key resources or maybe pieces of advice that you've had along the way?
So many. There's probably a couple that come top of mind immediately. One is just start. And again, we say this all the time, that starting is hard. And sometimes we feel like confidence comes from confidence, whereas confidence isn't something that is built on its own. Confidence comes from action. So if you're worried about taking a step up in your career or leaving a job or taking a risk, doing it is the only way to get confident of doing it. And I think we all are raised or go through school thinking that you have to know something really well in order to be able to do it. Whereas actually, when you start a new role or a new project, the learning is built into that. You're meant to be learning for the first part. Otherwise, you'll be bored of that job incredibly quickly. So I think that just start and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It never gets less uncomfortable, but you get more comfortable with that feeling. The second and big one that's top of mind at the moment is the power of networks. We often say visibility and value are the two sides of your career, and I focused way too much on adding value for way too long. Whereas that whole second side of social capital, opportunity gaps, whatever it is that connections create, I didn't focus on. And I have had an incident recently where I really, really needed to call on my support crew, and having wrapped myself with a peer group and built a community of professional allies, it was incredible how differently that went, to be able to talk it through, have people step up to play on my behalf, and and have people sort of hold me to account as well. So I think those two are probably the biggest transformative pieces of advice in my career.
Awesome. Yes, super powerful. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, so you won't know this about me, but I hate, loathe, and detest coriander. So if you think about that sense of hate, loathing, testing, or can't abide something, what would your coriander be in a professional or a work setting?
I know you'd mentioned coriander earlier, and I love coriander. So I was thinking, like, oh, things that remind me of coriander, or the things that I love. Things that I hate. Oh, okay, there's probably a couple. I feel like, I mean, this is a really timely topic, and obviously this podcast will be around forever, but we're having a massive pushback at the moment globally, led by the US, around DE&I. And this idea of didn't earn it is the acronym. And I just think it's such a shame. And it is my pet peeve at work at the moment that people who've had to battle so hard and work twice as hard to get into the positions that they've got into are currently being somewhat undermined in those positions. And you start to see it catching. And I think that can be really internalized. And I see it all the time. I actually had a conversation earlier today with someone, and I looked at her LinkedIn profile, and she had so much experience in this area. And so I'd sent her a job to apply for, and she said, oh, I probably need to get a bit more experience before I do that. And I just think that pushback and that idea of removing blockers for underrepresented groups and making the playing field even is a bad thing, and it's been interpreted as making life easier for some people. It has massive impacts, and it means Powrsuit has to exist, that we have to focus on work that would really rather be doing something far more forward thinking than just bringing everyone up to the baseline. So yeah, the internalization of structural norms, I find that really annoying, because you see these fabulous women doing incredible things and doubting themselves because they've been taught that they're not good enough.
Yeah, and they need to push themselves even further to be able to get to that baseline piece. I agree. Yeah. Okay. Very powerful coriander. Yes. Okay.
I was really trying to embody your hatred of coriander.
Oh, can't bear it, honestly. It's terrible. Okay, so you will know what a koha is, but for people that don't know, in Māori culture, a koha is a gift. So taking that concept and using it loosely, what koha or what gift would you give to somebody right now who is going through a career transition, or maybe they were a bit stuck and not sure which way to go?
Introductions. Connections close gaps, and I have been doing it all day actually. There's probably about 10 people in our network at the moment who are going through a job change, or have been made redundant, and I am introducing them to people in their industries, people in similar roles, people who are hiring. Making those connections unprompted is one of the biggest gifts you can give to someone going through a time like that, because it's overwhelming. You have a lot on your plate, and people who are making the effort to unlock doors for you through connection are just insanely valuable.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that also helps boost confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Great gift. Thank you. All right, so that's your 5 curly career questions. But as I mentioned at the start, you do have a mystery question, which was left by a previous guest. And that's a whole concept that I borrowed from Stephen Bartlett. So you ready for your mystery question?
Absolutely not, but let's go.
Okay, so the question is, if you had to survive a week in the wilderness, with only 3 items, and one of those was not a survival kit, what would you bring and why?
I mean, do I have to pack water?
I guess so. I don't know. Unless you can
Okay,
find it
I would
yourself
pack
in the
water.
wilderness.
I would have some
Yeah.
water. Wilderness. Yeah, I'm assuming that I'm very pragmatic with this stuff. I would go water. I would probably pack myself some really good spaghetti bolognese. I reckon I could live off that quite happily for a week. And probably on the pragmatism side, something really warm. A tent. I wish I was more interesting.
Nice.
I want to be someone who's like, I'll bring my favorite books and I will bring some music, but no, I'm survival.
Nice. I was thinking about it earlier and I was like, what would I bring? I'm not sure. Cool. All right. Thank you, Nat. You have the opportunity to leave one for the next guest as well in a minute. But just want to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here and hear your responses.
It was really fun. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.